Now I'm going to zoom back out on the document because there are other tools that I want to point out, and I want to tell you sort of the best practices that I employ when I'm using them, because if you can decide how the tools are supposed to be used, then you can know at a glance what the document needs for changes. Let me show you what I mean. Here I have the highlight tool, and I'll select it, and I'm going to highlight a run of text. In my workflow, I've decided that a highlighted run of text means that there needs to be something changed about its formatting, not about its content. Why is that an important methodology to use? Because when I receive this document back from my reviewers who also use this same convention, then I know who needs to do what to the document. This is a change that's probably going to be made in graphic design, where this is a change that's going to need to be made in editing. So I know at very least that I have to bring two people into the process to make the changes to this document that were required. Now, it's never a good idea to highlight something and not indicate what you're highlighting that something for. In this case, I'll double click, and again, I'll move it off to the side because it's just something that I tend to do, and I'll indicate that this should be bold. The person who looks at this document doesn't need to open that window in order to know that there's a formatting change. This is where they'll go to find out what that formatting change should be. Now I'll close the panel, and I also want to point out that because I have added some text to that highlight, notice that the indication of the comment on the document has changed. There's a little icon there, and that indicates that there is some text inside that note that I should pay attention to. And I don't have to actually open the note. You'll notice that when I roll over it, a tooltip will pop open to show me what the content in there is. So in this case, I can note very quickly, this should be bold. It's very, very helpful when you're adding comments to a document that you use the right tool, that you help other people understand what the right tool should be, and you give them the ability to find out at a glance what that change should be. Now there are two more tools that I want to quickly cover here. One, the shape tool, and I'll use the rectangle tool. I tend to use this as a way to indicate movement of content, whereas I tend to use the text edits tool as a way to indicate sort of retyping or changing content in place. Here's what I do. I'll put a rectangle around some text. Notice that by doing that, Acrobat automatically copied the content of the rectangle and gave me the little indicator here. That's pretty useful, and that's something that Acrobat can do as a preference that's by default on, and I'm going to show you in a moment how to turn it off if you like. In this text panel, when I double-click on the note, the text is already available to me. I can copy and paste it if I want to move it out of the document, or I can do something else with it as well. I'll go ahead and close this. There are a variety of other shape tools that basically work the same way. It's just they have a little bit of a different face to them. So if I wanted to put a circle around here, I could do so by clicking this, putting a circle around this logo. I'm going to go ahead and delete this though, because I'm not going to use this particular shape. There's one last tool that I want to quickly cover here. So I'll hit the delete key to remove that entire note, and that's the pencil tool. The pencil tool is extremely convenient because it works just like you would expect it to. It allows me to draw on the page, which is something that I frequently do in a workflow where I'm commenting on someone's work. And before I actually add my comment to the document, let's zoom in a little bit, because what's useful about this tool is its ability to focus on something very specific. So in this case, I want to add a comment regarding this graphic here. I'll select the pencil tool, click, and I'll drag right around that object, making it pretty clear that this is the object I want to change. So I can then double click on it and move this off to the side just so it's easier to see what we're saying. And I'll type, "This should be a family." We'll go ahead and zoom back out. Now, even though the text panel is quite large and it's difficult maybe to tell exactly what I'm pointing to, the object that I'm pointing to is obvious, because if I close the text panel here, I can see that there's a note around there. And this gets me back to the point for even discussing all of these tools in the first place. When you work with this tool set, you should decide what each tool means in your workflow. Because now when I open this document up, and it's my job to make changes or decide who's going to make changes to the files that became this PDF file, it's easy for me to know that I have some text copy changes, some copy changes that require moving text around, a text formatting change, which is probably going to be done by somebody in the graphics group, and a graphics change itself, which might require an outside freelancer, for example, in my particular workflow. I don't have to go open each of these comments to find out what I need to do. I can, at a glance, understand the changes that I need to make to this file.